Hello students, welcome to this lecture on lighting and graphics. Lighting is a key element of the mise-en-scene and helps in constructing the visual imagery. Lighting is essential not just for illumination and visibility, but also to create the mood of a scene as well as to emphasize a certain action. While a brightly lit area mobilizes audience attention towards the object or towards the gesture of a character, a darkly lit area conceals important details and creates suspense by not revealing the truth. Light and shadow are the two binaries of the visual world, just like sound and silence are the binaries of the auditory world. Lighting helps in creating the shape of an object with the help of highlights and shadows. A highlight is a patch of relative brightness on the surface. Highlight helps us in understanding important cues about the texture of a surface. If the texture is that of a glass or a similar smooth surface, then the highlights will become shiny and reflective. Whereas, if the surface is coarse or rough, like that of a stone, then it would yield diffused highlights. With the help of highlights and shadows, light helps in creating a well-molded surface. Molding is the process by which we can have an inkling about the volume of the surface. A well-molded surface gives us a sense of three-dimensionality of the object or the face that we are looking at. Whereas a badly molded subject will render the object as two-dimensional. Shadows are of two types: the attached shadows and the cast shadows. The attached shadows take place because light is not able to reach equally to all parts of the frame. Imagine a situation in which a man sitting in a dark room is being lit up with the help of one single candle. There will be attached shadows on the body of the man as well as on his face. Most obviously, the nose will create its own shadow on the cheek. This shadow is known as the attached shadow. On the other hand, this man will stand in the way of the light that comes from the candle and therefore cast its own shadow on the wall and the floor of the house. This shadow is called as the cast shadow. A remarkable example of the cast shadow is found in the film Ivan the Terrible by Sergei Eisenstein. In this film, the cast shadow of Ivan falls on the floor, the walls, as well as on the roof or the ceiling of the house. The house itself is in the form of a cave. As Ivan moves across the room, the shadow also moves in an accentuated manner across the floor, the wall, and the ceiling of the room. A cinematographer broadly categorizes his lighting into four major areas for his or her convenience. The four major areas are quality of light, direction of light, source of light, and the color of light. Quality of light implies the intensity of illumination that is reaching the object. This can be broadly categorized into hard lighting and soft lighting. In natural circumstances, hard lighting is something which we encounter during the noon when the sun is harshest. Hard lighting produces sharp shadows with very well defined contours and also very big highlights. As opposed to that, soft lighting creates a diffused sort of a highlight, and the shadows also lose their definition. There are several ways in which a cinematographer can control the hardness or the softness of light that is falling on his subject in a studio situation. He can use a net or a butter paper on top of the surface in order to control its hardness. Similarly, the light that falls on the subject can be made to bounce on a suitable surface in order to arrive at the desired softness. The distance of the source from the subject also controls the intensity of illumination. The next important aspect of lighting is the direction of light. Direction of light can be understood by looking at the relative position of the source with respect to the subject. Broadly, there are 4 or 5 directions of light that are available. They are the front light, the back light, the side light, the top light, and the under light. In a front light situation, the face of the character is mostly flat. It lacks molding. Molding can be arrived at when a front lit situation is coupled with a side light situation. Harsh side lights create definitions of the face. We get remarkable examples of side lit faces in Citizen Kane, a film by Orson Welles. Backlighting, as the name suggests, comes from behind the character. When used without any other light, backlight creates silhouette. Backlight also creates a halo around the character. Next to backlight is the top light and the underlight. Both the top light and the underlighting creates unnatural shadows and also distorts the figure, thereby creating a sense of expressionistic imagery. It is important to note that none of these lighting directions have any absolute value attached to them. The meaning it changes depending upon the context in which a certain direction of light is being employed in the narrative. Lighting can also be characterized by its source. In real life situation, a character is always surrounded by one or more number of sources of light. When the lighting simulates the condition of the source light, then what we have is a very realistic sort of lighting. Usually, we encounter a table lamp or a window as the dominant source within the scene. That does not, of course, mean that the table lamp or the window is being used as the only lighting source in the scene, because there are a battery of lights that are being used to light up the scene, but it looks as if light is being achieved only through the window light. Hollywood uses the basic principle of three-point lighting, which has now been taken up by other industries across the globe. In three-point lighting, they identify three major sources of light. The most dominant source is called the key light, which is supposed to illuminate the object at a close quarters. Key light always throws shadows on the face, which are softened with the help of fill light. The third lighting is called the backlight. In realistic situation, a key light and fill light are always controlled by a certain ratio that binds them. In interior daylight situation, this ratio is 4:1. That means the key light intensity is 4 times the intensity of the fill light. As is obvious, every character in the scene has 3 different sources of light: a key light, a fill light, and a backlight. Every introduction of a new character would also entail 3 different sources of light: the key light, the backlight, and the fill light. However, the real life lighting of a studio situation is not as complicated as it may sound, because the key light of one character serves as the fill light for another character. The basic principle of source lighting is provided by important painter Vermeer and his work. Vermeer mainly used window as the source of light, and the way light falls as the space progressively goes away from the window. Next to the source of light are the color of light. We assume that lights appear only in 2 different colors. One is the white light of the sun, and the second is the yellowish light of the studio lights. However, lights can also be of several other colors. The present day tube light which we use in our houses are also an acknowledged source of light in contemporary cinema. Tube light provides a bluish tinge to the scene. Many other filmmakers have used color lighting as an expressionistic mode of filmmaking. In Truffaut's Green Room, yellowish light is used with a tinge of redness in it, whereas Eisenstein uses blue light to create a certain horror. Contrast lighting is an important visual tool in the hands of the cinematographer to enhance the drama of the scene. Contrast is created when highlights and shadows exist in equal proportion in the frame. When a character is split with tension and uncertainty, the best way to depict the uncertainty is to light up the character's face with a high contrast lighting. In outdoor situations, we usually see contrast under the shade of a tree when the character's face is submerged in dappled lighting. Rashomon is a beautiful example of dappled lighting falling on the face of the bandit. Similar to contrast lighting is the mood lighting. In the mood lighting, it is not the direction or the source of light that is of paramount importance. Rather, the emotion of the character is what guides the lighting principle. So far, everything that we have spoken of about the lighting principles concerns to a situation in which light can be controlled in an interior studio situation. However, the same principles apply to a lighting situation in an outdoor condition. However, the cameraman and the director has to wait for the proper meteorological conditions to appear so that the lighting is favorable to the scene which they are shooting. The perspective relations of images can be enhanced graphically by using various special effect techniques. Superimposition is one of the earliest graphical techniques that have been used in the history of cinema. Two different planes of image are brought together either through multiple exposure or by printing technologies in the laboratory. Projection methods and matte processes are much more complicated and elaborated processes that are used to create composite shots and bring about a graphical quality to the image. Projection methods are of two types, the back projection and the front projection. In back projection, actions are staged in the foreground in front of a translucent screen where images of the site are being back projected. The camera shoots this entire ensemble. Back projection, however, never provided satisfactory answers because the two different planes never merged into each other satisfyingly. The foreground action never cast a shadow onto the back projected image, and the back projected image always looked uniformly diffused and stood separately from the foreground object. The back projection system was improved with the advent of the front projection system in the 1960s when a two-way mirror was angled to throw the front projected image onto a high reflectance surface placed at the back of the plane of action. The camera shot the entire ensemble of the plane of action and the high reflectance surface together through the mirror. Satisfying results of the front projection system is to be found in the film 2001 Space Odyssey. Next to the projection system is the matte processes. A matte strip is one in which the site or the location is photographed with the particular area of the frame remaining unexposed. Another strip containing the action is brought in contact with the matte strip, and the two together are fused to give one strip. Both the projection systems as well as the matte process have now become obsolete with the coming of the digital techniques, where the entire action is shot in front of a blue screen popularly called as the chroma screen. Later on, the image of the site, complete with the movement of shadows, are added digitally, replacing the blue screen. With the rise of computer-generated effects, the fusion of cinematography and mise-en-scene has become seamless. With the advent of highly sophisticated compositing softwares, it has become possible for directors to merge 3D action with live action in a very aesthetic manner. The host of films like the Jurassic Park, Avatar, the Harry Potter series, and many others, which has managed to capture the audience imagination across the globe. A case in point is the scene in Jurassic Park where computer-generated dinosaurs confront the human characters in the park. The manner in which the two worlds merge, the world of the fantasy and the world of reality, is in itself an aesthetic tension that was not possible in an era preceding the digital world. In conclusion, one would like to remind the students that although lighting in particular is moving from the era of opticals to the era of digital, the basic principles that guide lighting will always remain the same. Realism as an expression in cinema is the basic guiding principle for all lighting practices.